Okay, so we'll just start our session. So can anyone give me a quick recall whatever we discussed in the last session, guys? So it was basically related to web applications. So can anyone tell me what did we discuss in our past class? So let me just share my screen. So one thing was we discussed something about DOS attacks, how basically DOS attacks are performed, and what are the countermeasures to not be a victim of the DOS attack. We discussed about denial of service attack, yes. So after that, we basically started a new topic, something is web application security. Now, whenever we go for web application security, guys, just a moment. Yeah, whenever we go for web application security, I basically gave you a scenario that what happens on the internet in 1 minute. So in 60 seconds over the internet, there is basically some lakhs of message, some millions of messages, some millions of images, millions of mails, downloads, uploads. There are n number of things. So whatever a user basically interacts on the internet is basically categorized into different ways. Either it is starting from messaging part, or it is sending basically a mail, watching a video, uploading a photo, using a map to navigate to some place. So each and every collaboratively, whenever you go for 60 seconds, there are basically top applications which are or top softwares, you can tell, which are basically going to support this. Now here in this scenario, we got chat GPT, we got emails, we got text messages, we got Google searches. YouTube is basically considered as video hours viewed, and Twitter is there. Whenever you go for social media, we got four different applications: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. So based upon this, here also you can basically go for the watch time of different short videos, and also you can basically go for the number of pictures being sent over the internet. Now, whenever we take an example of Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, let's take this four different applications and basically discuss on this. So whenever you take these four different applications, we basically have some one barrier here, that is basically going to be in either in Snapchat, either in Instagram, either in Twitter, or you can also go for Facebook and YouTube also sometimes. So till Facebook will take, whenever you go for these four different applications, guys, whenever we basically consider these four different applications. So here the thing is, here what is exactly happen is our private data is being uh, published on the internet. Whenever you're trying to publish your data, whenever you're trying to basically display on the internet, and you are showing people that what are you doing in your daily life, what is happening, whatever your pictures are, whatever your videos are, whatever your wherever you're going, the locations and everything, whenever you share each and everything, so there is basically something called as privacy. So here these applications are so you can tell they basically hold n number of data, that is millions of users of data. So they should be 100% secured. So to basically look at this scenario, so whenever you go for these web applications or mobile applications, any of the applications, if we consider web applications, so in this basically there is something called as web application security. Now whenever you want to maintain the security, so whenever you are basically dealing with the n number of users data that is completely private, and you don't want it to be publicly used, publicly misused on the internet, or in any other case, it can be misused, right? So if you don't want the data to be leaked, if you don't want the people to randomly use the data without knowing to some user, so you need to basically maintain the end-to-end security. Now, whenever you go for the security part, so here we basically considered something as OWASP top 10. So this was basically DOS attack. So I guess everyone is clear about DOS attack. Whenever you go for a DOS attack, it is basically like whenever you take an example of two competitors, and you don't want basically two competitors are from the same domain. If you take an example of Amazon and Flipkart, so whenever you go for Amazon and whenever you go for Flipkart, they basically are competing in the same e-commerce domain. And if the both the domains, both the brands are basically going for a live sale at the same time, same dates and same duration, then what will exactly happen is during this scenario, not only Flipkart and Amazon, you can take any example. Whenever two competitors are doing each and everything equally, so one competitor can basically go for a DOS attack on another competitor. So he doesn't want, what he basically wants, what is the agenda behind this DOS attack is, if the basically the competitor's website comes down, the traffic will be again taken out by the same category, which is basically the top brand. If Amazon goes down, people will automatically switch to Flipkart, because Flipkart is also having the same sale. So in the same way, whenever you go for this DOS attack, it is basically denial of service. Whenever you go for denial of service, our total goal, whenever we are trying to implement DOS attack, the total goal of the attacker is to bring down the server of the target. Once he brings down the server of the target, that will basically stop the users to view the website. Either it will show some server timeout, either it will show some request timeout, any kind of error may be displayed regarding request or regarding the server or regarding the website, web URL or website. So in that case, our target is going to be the use, not allowing the attacker's target is going to be not allowing the user to visit the website. In between, whenever you're trying, you're trying to stop the user, the only thing which is in between is the server. So we are targeting the server which is completely responsible and which is the backbone of the website, which is basically taking the requests, processing them and forwarding to the domain address. So we are basically bringing out that server down by sending lot of requests which are out of limit for the server. So that is basically how DOS attack works. Now, whenever you go for DDoS attack, now distributed denial of service attack is a little bit different. So here, whenever you go for a DOS attack, here only one attacker will be there, but here that attacker is taking help of 7 different compromised computers or compromised PCs, which are also acting like a attacker. So here, if I say one attacker is there, here I can basically say 7 attackers are basically trying to attack the server at the same time. So distributed denial of service is more kind of effective, and it is basically more destructive whenever you go for whenever you compare between DOS and DDoS. Now, whenever you go for DOS tools, we got low orbit ion cannon and high orbit ion cannon, which basically are having the user interface and you can easily operate them. Now, one more thing to mention, I mentioned in the past class also, basically performing something without any prior knowledge of any of the target. So if you're basically trying to perform DOS attack on any of the website, and if the server comes down, and if that basically that business faces some issue, then definitely you are going to be basically you are going to be the person, you're going to be the what you tell that you're going to be the responsible person by who the attack was there or whatever it may be. If you're basically the person, then definitely you are going to be tracked. Whatever your IP address is, it is going to be tracked, and it is a completely a different kind of offense to perform these kind of attacks, guys. So whenever you go for denial of service attack, the total damage whatever it gives to the server, it can lead to hardware failure, which has basically a server is basically built on either 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs to 80 lakhs 1 year also. So whenever you go for this whole hardware complete components. Whenever you're trying to perform DOS attack, if the server is basically getting heated because of lot of requests are coming, then what will exactly happen is that hardware failure will also be the issue. Once there is basically one hardware failure, then it can also cause to some kind of fire accident or something big can happen. So this can escalate to lot of things. So denial of service attack is completely blacklisted from the complete cybersecurity part. If you basically think like that, it is completely a blacklisted attack and it is not made for the practice purpose nor for the any kind of attack. So if you basically try to perform anything, if you try to play around, I will suggest don't do that and just let it be. Okay, now whenever you go for prevention, so whenever you go for a DOS attack, guys, it is basically using some kind of fake IP addresses or different locations, multiple locations from where IPs are getting generated and the traffic is getting generated, which is hitting the server. So here we can basically use a good filtering firewall, traffic filtering firewall, which can basically exactly like filter all the traffic and it can backtrack the traffic, who is using the proxy, who is the genuine IP address which is coming from the single location. So by using the firewalls itself, you can basically go for half of the traffic can be blocked. Second thing is whenever you go for real-time threat monitoring, you can basically do the network traffic monitoring, in which you can see whatever the IP address is performing on the website, what is the basically whatever the IP address is performing, you can track each and every activity once it basically connects to the website. And also you can use something called as web application firewalls, so which are basically used for inspection purpose of the traffic, and also you can monitor them. So whenever a pattern is formed, you can basically go and you can manually check what are the IP addresses exactly getting generated, and then you can basically go for hunting down the IP addresses and locations whether they are genuine or not. So based upon this, you can prevent the DOS attack. Now guys, here we have something related to web application security. So we basically discussed something about OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. Now under this OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, we got something called as broken access control, which is related to user IDs and passwords, cryptographic failures, which is related to encryption and decryption. Injection is basically related to injection of malware or any kind of tampering. Insecure design is nothing but related to insecure architecture design. So if you're not securing your whole uh, complete application, whatever you're using, if you're not doing the right encryption and decryption part, and you're not basically filtering the traffic, whatever the inbound traffic is coming and outbound traffic is getting generated, for all these purposes, guys, you basically need a complete secure design, that is secure architecture. Security misconfiguration, you need to configure your security applications in a good way. And vulnerable and outdated components are nothing but whenever there is basically a software update, we are definitely going to ignore it for some time. Whenever you're trying to ignore those software updates, so the reason whenever you go for software update in either mobile phone, either your laptop or any of the device, the reason is because an update is basically given to a user because the past vulnerabilities whatever are there, they will be resolved and then only they will basically give you an update. So that is the reason. If you're not if your system is completely not updated, then it is going to be outdated and vulnerable. Identification and authentication failures is again related to user IDs and passwords. To basically skip this identification and authentication failures, you can use multi-factor authentication and two-factor authentication, where you're going to receive some kind of OTPs to your email IDs and also a few kind of SMS OTPs generated to the SMS. So that will exactly help you how you can basically protect your authentication and how you can protect your user ID and password login IDs. Software and data integrity failures, secure logging and monitoring failures. So whenever you go for secure logging and monitoring, whenever you go for secure, just a moment, guys. Yeah, whenever you go for secure logging and monitoring, so as I told you, whenever you try to monitor the whole network traffic, then definitely you can basically catch the culprit attacker who is trying to download some files which are not authorized to the normal user, which are only authorized to limited people, or some activity which is suspicious in the network, you can exactly go for the graph and you can exactly hunt down the IP address which is doing it, and you can block that IP address. So that is why we basically used secure logging and monitoring. So software integrity and failures is nothing but, guys, we know something called as CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Can anyone tell me what integrity stands for, guys? Guys, what does integrity stand for? In confidentiality, integrity, and availability, in the CIA triad, what are we exactly protecting by using data integrity? Data doesn't get tampered, security measures. Yeah, exactly, data doesn't get tampered, but what is exactly our motive to protect by using data, by applying data integrity or implementing data integrity? So basically, whenever you go for data integrity, so we got a number of employees data, number of users data, so which should be completely secured, right? So by using data integrity, we try to secure the login credentials of each and every person who is trying to log in our web application. Today, we were informed that there is going to be a recap session for the students who missed the starting classes due to semester examinations. So guys, once we basically complete today, we will complete the top 10 vulnerabilities of our web applications. We have some practicals to complete. Once we complete the practical, then we will start our recap. So in the next half an hour, I will basically show you the practical part. Once we'll complete, then we'll go for the practical part. Okay, guys, we'll go for the practical part. So now, guys, we got something called as Metasploitable server. So whenever you go for Metasploitable server, here we have Metasploitable 2. Now in Metasploitable 2, you need to go for the source forge. Once you basically go here you can download the latest version of Metasploitable. So what is exactly Metasploitable, guys? Metasploitable is nothing but it has some kind of vulnerable web application in it. Where you can perform all the vulnerabilities of web application. So if you want to see practically how it is done, then you need to download this Metasploitable server and you need to log in with the default. So on the page itself, you will find that there is some kind of login ID and password. MSF admin is going to be the username, MSF admin is going to be the password. Once you try to log in, then definitely you can basically go and use your Kali Linux and the Metasploitable in the virtual machine itself. So you'll basically have two virtual machines. One is Metasploitable, one is Kali Linux. By using Kali Linux, you can, once you get the IP address of the Metasploitable, you can directly go and you can perform different number of attacks. Now I'll just show you how exactly Metasploitable works, and we'll basically go the practical part of web applications. Let me just share my screen. So guys, once you basically log in into Metasploitable, so it will basically show you like this. So here you can go and you can just a moment. I need to check for annotations. Hmm. Yeah, okay, guys. So here you can basically type ifconfig. By typing ifconfig, you will get the IP address. So whenever you go for IP address, here you have inet address 192.168.0.7. Now, once you successfully get your IP address, you can directly go to your Kali Linux. Just a moment, guys. So once you basically go to the Kali Linux, so here you have the terminal. So here, first thing is, guys, whenever you're going for the web application, it is important for you to go for finding the open ports and closed ports. So first we will basically try to find the open ports here. Once you basically find the open ports, then you can look for the vulnerabilities. Now here, guys, whenever you look for the open ports here, n number of open ports are available. So 21 TCP, which is basically file transfer protocol, is open. 22 TCP SSH is open. 23 telnet port is open. Simple mail transfer protocol, domain service protocol, HTTP is there, which is often known as insecure port because it is completely unencrypted. So we got RBC NetBIOS, which is basically used for local data sharing. So like this, we got a number of open ports. Now, what exactly we are going to do is, so here you can find that FTP port is open, right? By using this FTP port, we will basically look for the file transfer protocol. So what is exactly FTP responsible for? So whatever files are getting transferred from one device, it is basically related to that. Now, once you build a connection to FTP by using this open port, then exactly what will happen is you will be able to look for the files which are present in the Metasploitable server. So here you can see our IP address is there 192.168.0.7. By using this IP address, whatever the device is, I'll basically scan the IP address of the device. If I find FTP port is open, then I'm going to do this attack. So let me just perform and show you. So here, guys, MSF console. So whenever you go for Kali Linux, we got something inbuilt tool called as Metasploit. So whenever you go for Metasploit, guys, Metasploit is nothing but it is having some kind of pre-built attacks. So like whenever you go for the programming part, so everyone know there is something called as libraries, right? So here in Metasploit, whenever you go for these attacks, we basically call them as payloads, which are completely inbuilt payloads. You can use them and you can basically attack to any of the related vulnerability. For FTP, there is FTP based payload. For SMB, there is SMB based payload. So a number of exploits are there. So our goal is whenever we find a vulnerability, we want to exploit that vulnerability. To exploit that vulnerability, here we got inbuilt exploits. By using them, we can directly go and exploit that vulnerability. Now, whenever you go for a vulnerability, guys, here we got something called as VSF-TPD. VSF-TPD is nothing but it is basically going to be the version of the server. So whenever you go for the vulnerability, each and every vulnerability is basically having something called as version. So if you basically use that version, so by using that version in the Metasploit, there is already one kind of module which is present. By using that module, you can directly go for the exact vulnerability, whatever is target. You can basically find that vulnerability. So first command is MSF console. Once you give MSF console, then you're going to search for the version which is present. So version here is going to be VSFTPD. Whenever you go for VSFTPD here, if you basically type VSFTPD, so whatever related to attacks are there, whatever related to uh, payloads are there or exploits are there, you will basically get those. Once you basically get those, here two types of payloads are there. One is denial of service, one is backdoor command execution. Now, what is this exactly backdoor command execution? Backdoor command execution is nothing but we are trying to build the backdoor connection with the FTP port 21 by using the 21 by using the port FTP 21. So from our computer's port FTP port 21 to the server side port, whatever FTP port 21 is open, from my computer's 21 port to that computer's 21 port, the connection will be built. Once the connection is builded, then we are going to have the session. So whenever you're trying to connect through backdoor, guys, one thing is common is, so you are trying to build the remote connection between the target system and your system. Once the target system is basically compromised, whether the backdoor command execution is completed, then you will have a session between your computer to that computer. You can basically look all the files, you can look all the data which is present on that particular target. So here, once you basically find VSFTPD, so here we are going to use this. Here you can basically give the number. So here 0 is there, 1 is there. So whenever you go for 0, 1, we are going for the backdoor command execution, right? We are going to give use 1, that's it, and enter. Now, once you basically give use 1 here, see here you can see Unix slash FTP slash VSFTPD 234 backdoor. So whatever is present here in the module, the same part, that particular directory I have entered. Now, once I enter the directory, I'm going for the show options. If I go for the show options, whenever you go for show options, guys, here 5 components are there. One is C host, one is C port, one is proxies, R host, R port. So R port is nothing but the target port, which is 21. So we are targeting FTP, so it is going to be 21. R host is nothing but target IP address. Now proxies we are not using, just leave the proxies part. C port is going to be our computer's port, and C host is going to be our computer's address. That is the attacker's address. So R host is for the target, R port is for the target, C host is for the person who is trying to attack, and C port is also for the person is going to attack. So C host, C port is attacker's details, and R host, R port is going to be the target details. Now you can just type here set C host, and here I am going to give my IP address. So this is basically my Kali Linux IP address, guys. Now, once you hit enter, so this is completely executed. Now we can go for a C port, set C port 21. Again, you can hit enter, and here you have C port 21 also set. Now you can go for set R host. This is going to be your Metasploitable server's IP address. So 0.7 is going to be my Metasploitable server's IP address, which I'm using as a target. Now, if you go for show options, see the table is completely updated. C host IP address is given, R host IP addresses is given, R port and C port target is also have been given. Now, once this is completed, here I can just type exploit. So the vulnerability, whatever is there, it will get exploited. See, backdoor service has been spawned, handling found shell. Now it will basically give session created. See, command shell session 1 opened. So from 192.168.0.8, that is my PC, and 192.168.0, that is a target computer, target's IP address. From one IP to another IP, the session has been builded. Now, once the session has been builded, I can basically go and view all the files. So here you can just type ls. So if you basically type ls and hit enter, so these are basically all the directories, those are present in the target IP address. So whatever the target IP address computer is, here we can find root is there, user directory is there, a library is there, home is there, etc, CD-ROM boot. So these are all nothing but guys by default directories. So whenever you try to whatever your data is there, if you basically try to store it in your computer, and some if you let's say FTP port number 21 is open, so anyone can build the backdoor session. So once you basically use the outdated versions, first thing is VS FTPT can be outdated version. Port number 21 FTP 21 can be vulnerable to this attack, and whenever you basically try to use this metasploit and you try to exploit the attack, then definitely you are going to get the access to the files whatever are present. Because see guys, FTP is basically stands for file transfer protocol. So file transfer protocol is nothing but it basically targets, it basically deals with all the files which are present in the computer which are being shared. So whatever files you're trying to share, they share over the port number 21 itself. So FTP is basically used for the file sharing purpose. So if you target the FTP, you will automatically get all the folders, all the files which are present in the target IP addresses computer. So this is how you can go for FTP file transfer protocol if the port number 21 is open. Now we'll go for our second target. Now here guys, I just want to mention one thing. We got something called as one is FTP, which is basically used for transferring files between servers and client machines. So as I told you in the basically on the whiteboard also, in the DOS attack, we basically target the server, right? Here also we are basically targeting the server itself. So FTP is primarily used for transferring files, whatever files are being shared between the server and the client machines. Now in the same way, we got something called as SMB protocol. So server message block protocol. This SMB is basically used for sharing the resources in the local area network. If you want to perform SMB protocol attack, so SMB basically deals on port number 129 TCP and 445 TCP. So here you can see SMB is basically open. Now, one more thing, if you remember, guys, day before yesterday or while we were discussing something about enumeration, I mentioned something about NetBIOS. So here you can see port number 139 TCP, NetBIOS is open, and also it is written in that SMB. So here SMB protocol is basically between server and client. Whenever there is a server and whenever there is a client, so all the sharing whatever is there, either it is a sharing of resources, either it is sharing of files or printers or any kind of data in the local area network. So NetBIOS is there, definitely it is basically comes into the local area network, and whenever you go for SMB also, it basically supports the local area network. Now whatever we share on the local area network, if the SMB port is open, then it is basically vulnerable. Now let's see in Metasploit if there is some kind of already payload present in MSF console, so we can just try to exploit the uh, server using SMB protocol. So SMB is basically going to be the protocol, and ports are going to be TCP 139. So here just search SMB. Let's see what we'll get. So here guys, you can see there are n number of attacks by using SMB. So whenever you go for SMB, something related to file delete, something related to file save. So here we are just going to open, we are going to use. So here guys, you can basically see here SAMBA is basically going to stand for the version. So you can just in FTP we basically we basically search for VS-FTPD. Here whenever it comes to SMB, we are going to type for SAMBA. That is basically Samba, and we are going to use the eighth one, that is exploit multi Samba user map script. So it is basically going to execute. So we are just going to type use 8. So once you basically type use 8, you will enter the multi-samba user map script, and then you can go for show options. Same thing here also, C host and C port basically stand for the attacker's IP address and attacker's port, and R host, R port is going to be the target. Sir, why that many variants in that attack? 1 second, guys. Let me just scroll up and explain you why these many variants are there. So, guys, here you can see whenever you go for the rank, there is something called as disclosure date, rank, check, description. So this disclosure date 2010, 12, 21, 2005, 32, these are all nothing but, guys, whenever a vulnerability was found, so people, whatever they tried to attack or whatever the steps were there, they basically were converted into modules and they were basically saved for learning purpose. So whenever you basically use this, let's say 0 is there, first option, exploit Unix, web app, Citrix, Access, Gateway, execution. So whenever you use this vulnerability was basically came to these people who came to know about this vulnerability in 2010, 12, 21. Once they basically found the vulnerability, it was a vulnerability that can give you access to the whole gateway command execution, and the rank is excellent. The meaning that rank is excellent is nothing but, so whatever the vulnerability was there, it was completely trying to disclose all the data of the web application, and it can basically harm all the web application associated things whatever are there regarding this. And then here one more thing is, whenever these vulnerabilities dates are basically here, according to these dates also we can tell 90% of the vulnerabilities will be closed at the same time. Whenever they find the vulnerabilities, they will basically give a patch to the vulnerability at the same time. Once the patch is made, we can't basically, so see, whenever you go for these 25 versions are there, right? 25 different versions are there. Whenever you go for this 25 different things, if you try and go to your any of the website which is online and you try to do this attack, so you will completely be unsuccessful. The reason is because, so in 2010, 2005, 2002, 2015, there were cybersecurity people who tried to look at all these vulnerabilities and they tried to solve these vulnerabilities. So once the vulnerabilities have been solved, that time whatever the patch is there, the patch is already given, and the vulnerability will, there will basically a number for each and every vulnerability, something like CVE 00-125, something like that. So whenever, sir, how I learn to were 25 variants in that attack. See, you don't need to learn all the 25 variants. These 25 different variants have basically different implementations. So one is related to Solaris, one is related to OCX, FreeBSD, DOS is there, Solaris is there. So these are in few of these are basically going to be completely outdated. Few are basically going to be which are still vulnerable. Whenever you here you can just target whatever the excellent are there, right? You can basically get to know about those excellent vulnerabilities. So that will be more than enough. And these all vulnerabilities have already been resolved. So there is no rule that you want to learn each and every module. If you basically know how to use this particular Metasploit tool, and how, you know how to test a web application, that is more than enough. So here we are basically going to take an example of eighth one, which is a user map script using SMB. So by using this, we will try to attack. So so the whole 25 whatever the different variants are there, all the variants are going to have the same process, guys, but implementation is going to be different. So here we just type use 8, C host is there. We are going to set the, so here L host, L port has already been set. Okay, we'll just move forward. So C host IP address we need to set, and again C port IP address. Sorry, C port number. C port. Done, guys. So here our host is going to be our target IP address. So here we have Metasploitable for our as our testing as our learning server. So we are using it for education purpose. So it is basically a vulnerable server which was built to be used for the practice sessions. Now, once you basically set everything, we can go for show options and we can check whether all the data is updated or not. So here we got C host, C port, R host, R port. Now here once you type exploit, so the session will be built. Started reverse TCP handler on 192.1. Just a moment, guys. Yeah, so once you basically give exploit, then it is going to build a session between sir, what is L host and L port? See, L host and L port are also going to be the are going to be our own attackers local host and local port. So L host and L port is nothing but where you're going to listen. So whatever you're trying to attack, so your what you will say. So if you're basically sending a request, so whenever attacker is there, right? Attacker is basically trying to build a session, but in the backend, in the basically whenever he is exploiting, once the exploit is successful, he should be able to look at whatever he is requesting, right? If you want to look at the files, so whenever he basically types ls, he should see all the list of files. So this is basically called as listening. So this listening is basically done on the open port, that is 4444. Not only 4444, you can basically specify any of the open port which is not in use or not in registered port number already. If you basically use those kind of port numbers, then it will be easy for you to get the reply from the server. So if you basically want to look at the files, you will type ls. So server will reply to you, right? That reply you will get on the port number 4444. See, here is the port number 44. So same thing again, we basically got all the files. Now guys, one thing I want to mention, whenever you go for SMB versus FTP, FTP is basically related to file transferring each and every file, whatever is being transferred between the client and the server. So we got to know how basically server is vulnerable. One is DOS attack, one is FTP attack is done, file transfer protocol also be exploited, and also third one is SMB. So here web application secure for web application security, DOS attack is completed and FTP is completed. But whenever you go for SMB, service message block protocol, this SMB protocol is basically used for the enumeration part. Now, enumeration is nothing but which is performed on the local area network, right? To perform enumeration, you should be connected in the same network where a server is basically connected. If you connect to the same network, then you can definitely perform the SMB. In our case, I am using a Wi-Fi where I have my Kali Linux and my uh, Metasploitable server launched. So that is the reason why I can perform enumeration here. By performing enumeration, I can go for SMB. And whenever you go for FTP, FTP can be performed from anywhere, doesn't matter. So this is basically how you can use. And whenever it comes to this R host, R port, C host, C port, this is nothing but guys, this is basically a type of a procedure how you can basically use the Metasploit. Whenever it comes to Metasploit, it is important that you give the target IP address, target port, and user IP address, user port. If you give them, then only the commands, whatever the exploit is there, that will basically be moved forward and the exploit will be done. Clear, guys? Till here, I hope you don't have any doubts. If you have any doubts, you may ask. Any doubts, guys? These are basically two server-based attacks. Now, in the next session, we'll basically enter into the publication attacks. So, okay, this is completed. Server based one was for enumeration. FTP was for the complete. You can basically perform FTP from anywhere, doesn't matter. Now, if you go for next part, web servers is completed. We'll go for web application attacks, which is OWASP top 10. Now we'll just go for our Metasploitable server and we'll switch to DVWA, that is damn vulnerable web application, which is also used for the learning purpose, which is the website which has all the vulnerabilities. You can basically go there, you can hack and do every stuff. So let me just log into my Metasploitable. See, once you basically type the Metasploitable IP address, you will find a DVWA here. You can just click on this DVWA. Sir, what exactly done by using this tool? See, whenever you go for Metasploit Ugandar, Metasploit is basically a tool which has, let's say, one web application. Whenever you go for web servers or web applications, there are n number of vulnerabilities found by cyber security people, right? Whenever there is a vulnerability, so in Metasploit, whatever the procedure was there, right? Whenever you go for the whole attack vectors, how basically the attack was performed technically, how exactly it worked, how exactly it worked, so that each and everything will exactly be you can tell it will be basically be scripted. It will basically be scripted, and whenever you go for the Metasploit exploits in Kali Linux, you will find a number of different number of list of exploits, right? Based upon your requirement, based upon your vulnerability you found, you can use that inbuilt number of scripts. Like whenever you go for Python, if you want to use let's say OpenCV in machine learning, so if you want to basically use OpenCV, you definitely need to download the libraries which are required. Requirements should be first, and then once you download the requirements, then definitely you can use the OpenCV in your complete Python code. In the same way, whenever you go for Metasploit also, whenever you want to Metasploit is nothing but it is having some all each and every exploit will be saved. So in according to that each and every exploit which was found in 2010, 2020, whenever the vulnerability was found, they basically found the whole process and they basically kept the automated script in that particular exploit. So once you basically use the uh, whatever the serial number is, if you basically type use 1, use 2, use 3, and you enter the directory wherever the all the attack vectors are saved, you can basically automate your complete attack. So Metasploit is basically one of the most powerful tool which is used to automate the attacks. You can basically just select the vulnerability, you can select the version. If you give the input version and whatever the vulnerability is, right information, then automatically you can find n number of scripts already there. Once the n number of scripts are there, you can basically go and you can basically use them. Sir, can you tell some examples where we should use Metasploit? See, Metasploit can be used everywhere. Either it is related to web application, either it is related to server side attacks. Anywhere Metasploit can be used. So once you basically type a vulnerability, you can get the version exactly, and then you can basically combinedly attack. Just a moment. So what exactly done by using this tool here? Uh, okay, we'll just move forward with the DVWA. Now, whenever you go for a DVWA, guys, I hope everyone can see that this is basically a login page, user ID and password. So let me just log in into this. So here by default, user ID, username is going to be admin. And password is going to be password. User ID admin and password is password. So guys, whenever you go for this damn vulnerable web application, first thing whenever you go here we got something called as uh, security. Security, you can basically go and set either low, either high, or either medium. It's completely up to you. First, we'll just start with the low security part. And then whenever you go for SQL injection, I hope everyone know what is SQL injection, guys. So here, let me just show you how SQL injection works. Just a moment. So guys, whenever you go for SQL injection, can anyone tell me what is SQL injection exactly? Or what exactly are we targeting using this SQL injection, guys? What is SQL injection? What exactly we are targeting using SQL injection? So whenever you go for SQL injection, guys, so here SQL injection is basically used for the database manipulation. So whenever you go for database manipulation, so each and every login page, user IDs and passwords are saved, right? So whenever you go for a login page here, under this login page, here you have a username, here you have a username text box, and here you have a password text box. Under this username text box, so here in the backend, guys, there will be a database allocated to save these usernames and passwords. Now whenever I say username is there, username is basically saved in some X folder and X table, and passwords are basically saved in some Y table. Now whenever I say X and Y, these are basically going to be the locations of usernames and passwords being shared in the data, being saved in the database. So usernames are being saved in the X folder, and Y is basically the location of the passwords where they are getting stored in the database. Now exactly what is happening here is, under this username and password, we are going to use few of the malicious SQL code. So once you basically give malicious SQL code, they are also called as SQL parameters. If you basically use them here and your web application is vulnerable, then here you will get the whole SQL query of this particular X table. So here you will just find select star, something like select star, folder X, and again you will find the column table, whatever the is there. So you will find the exact query, whatever exact location is there, that location will be displayed here where usernames are displayed. So technically telling, it is basically a attack vector which basically uses the malicious SQL code to manipulate the database from the backend, and it can access the information which is basically displayed here on the display. Whenever I tell usernames and I basically use some SQL injection parameters here, SQL injection parameters here, and these basically whatever the injection I give, whatever the parameters I give, here in the down, guys, you will get the all the usernames which were basically entered in the past also. So whatever the X folder is there, whatever, let's say X folder holds 10 usernames, 10 usernames. So all the 10 usernames will be displayed here in this SQL query. So let me just show you how exactly it is done. So here, once you come to DVWA, guys. So here we got something called as user ID. Now here I'm going to give one of the SQL parameter, which is basically used to manipulate the database. So there is a cheat sheet for this. I'll basically provide you the cheat sheet by the end of the session. See, once I basically use this in user ID part, so whatever the user IDs were given in the past, using the past logins, either it is a admin, either it is a Gordon, either it is hack, either it is Pablo. either it is Bob. So these are basically all the user IDs which are written in the past. Now, exactly how whatever I told you in the database, wherever the user IDs have been are being saved. Based upon those user IDs, the whole list is projected here whenever there is an error in the error where database cannot take your input. So if you basically give this one colon, one single inverted comma or single inverted comma one again equals to one hash. So here what you're going to do is you're basically trying to manipulate the database. Whenever you try to manipulate the database and there is an SQL vulnerability, database cannot understand it. So that time database should exactly show the message, please give the valid input. But if it doesn't have, developers doesn't have solved that vulnerability, then it will show the whatever data is related to this basically text box, and whatever the location the data is being stored, everything will be displayed on the display. That is how it will be done. In the same way, guys, there are n number of SQL injections you can use. So here you got something union. So this is basically another SQL injection parameter you can give in the username. See, union select user password from usernames. So this is basically here. Can anyone tell me what is this surname, guys? Why I'm getting in this in unique numbers and alphabets? Can anyone tell me why I'm getting this in unique alphabets, guys? Yeah, encrypted, exactly. So whenever you go for this username, so here you can find that whatever the password is there or username is there. So whatever is stored in this encrypted format also we are able to find. How we are able to find here? Here admin is basically a username and this encrypted one is a password. Whenever you go for this password, guys, this is completely encrypted in a hash format. Now we can basically try and we can basically crack this if we want, and then we will automatically get the password. So here you can just go for online crack station. So here if I basically give this hash and if I ask it to crack the hash, see MD5. So the password is basically password. So here we basically have user edition passwords. If we go and crack the second one, see Gordon B is there. If we take this, copy this, and again we go to the crack station and try to crack the password. Crack hashes. See, I basically got the password ABC123. In the same way, whenever you find this vulnerability in the database, you can also get the passwords and usernames. Once you get the usernames, you will basically able to find that is the whatever the website is there, the login portal is there, it is completely vulnerable to SQL injection. Once you basically go and to find the passwords, there are some different queries. To find the usernames, there are some different queries. You can inject those queries in the username place or password text box. Once you inject that, so that is basically exactly called as SQL injection. SQL injection is nothing but there are few parameters defined. You can, based upon those parameters, you can auto, sir, is it same as hashcat? It will also generate the hashes. Yeah, exactly, it is same as hashcat. It will also generate the same hashes, Soumya. So exactly, you can basically see, guys, whenever it is either requirement of passwords, either users. So based upon that, you can basically use different SQL parameters. Based upon those parameters, you will get the outputs. Okay, we'll move forward. Now, I hope everyone understood what SQL injection exactly works and what is the main motive of the SQL injection. Clear, guys, everyone? Anyone having any doubts? Use of SQL. So, as I told you, whenever you go for SQL is basically a database. Okay. So, whenever you find vulnerabilities in the database, so what is exactly the vulnerability? How can it be exploited? So, whenever you go for this SQL vulnerability, so here the vulnerability is nothing but whenever you try to give some input which is not recognized by the SQL database, that time it will automatically throw all the usernames and passwords which are related to that text box. So exactly, whenever you go for these either username or password, it is basically a text box, right? That is basically the front end of the website. So front end of the website is basically the text box, and that text box is integrated to the back end of the website, that is the SQL database. Now, whenever the whatever the input is given here, it is stored in the database. Now, SQL, whatever the database is there, it should recognize the input, then it should store the input in the database. That time, if the database, whatever user ID password is there, and you type the same user ID and password in the text boxes on your front end of the website, if both match, then you will be able to get into the website. If you basically give the wrong password and the password is already saved in the database, also you need to change your password again. So if you go for take an example of Facebook, guys, if you give the username, it is, you know that it is your account, it is your email ID, but if you type the password, wrong password, then it is not going to allow you, right? In the same way here also, whenever the backend is connected to the database, whenever the front end is connected to the backend database, exactly, if you know the username and you don't know the password, that time we can basically use this type of SQL parameters for finding passwords, for finding usernames. That time, if the SQL vulnerability is present, then automatically whatever the text box is, this text box is there, whatever the text box is there, so that integrated data is stored in the database, right? The whole table itself will be displayed on the screen. So by using that, you can basically see it will display all the usernames associated with the different websites or only same websites. Why it will show different websites, Monica? It will show only the same website. See, this website is there. There is this website's username, and if let's say Facebook username password is there, Facebook username password is stored in the Facebook database, right? If you go for some Amazon user ID password, that will not be stored in the Facebook user ID passwords database. So Facebook data is Facebook data, another website's data is another website data. So nothing is relational in between two different either websites or either any servers. So if the Facebook username password is there and it is vulnerable for the SQL injection and you use this different number of parameters, then whatever present in the Facebook database, whatever present in the Facebook database is basically displayed on the screen. That is exactly how you can use SQL attack. Clear, guys? Do you have any doubts here? No? Okay. Let's move forward. So here, guys, we got something called as cross-site scripting. Can anyone tell me what is cross-site scripting? Language. What kind of language is this? So here exactly what we will do is in cross-site scripting, we will try to manipulate the data which is present on the website. By manipulating it, either it is some kind of URL, either it is some kind of name or whatever it is in the input. If you basically try to manipulate it, then definitely you are going to get a lot of information. So let me just show you the attack. Here basically it is asking what is your name. Yeah, this is basically going to be client-side attack, Sai Prakash. So here, what is exactly is cross-site scripting. So whenever an attacker tries to type some kind of malicious content in the input, that is basically whenever you're trying to interact with a website and you give the malicious content, you give some kind of scripts. Whenever you give this script, so what exactly will happen is the website will be manipulated. You're trying to manipulate it by exactly how SQL injection got manipulated with the SQL parameters. Same thing in cross-site scripting attack. We are trying to give different types of scripts based upon the requirement of data, and those scripts once they are executed, then the website is going to get reflected by cross-site scripting. So one thing is whenever you go for SQL injection versus cross-site scripting is basically going to be client-side attack. That is client-side vulnerability. And whenever you go for SQL injection, SQL is a database which is present in the backend, right? So whenever you go for SQL injection, it is basically a server-side vulnerability. You can tell this is client-side vulnerability, which is in the which is basically performed in the front end part, and whenever you go for SQL injection, that is basically performed in the back end, which is going to the server side vulnerability. So XSS is client side and SQL injection is server side. So here I basically gave the script you are hacked something, and then you can submit. See, once you submit, it will basically take you to the URL. Now, whenever you go for this, guys, just try to observe the URL on the top, whatever the URL is there. So there you can basically find that script has been injected in the HTTP website itself. So whenever you go for cross-site scripting, 90% of the attacks of cross-site scripting vulnerability will be found in the HTTP websites itself. So in the HTTP websites, we can manipulate the URLs, we can basically inject a number of scripts which will help us to manipulate the whole website itself. By manipulating the whole website, you can either decrease the prices of the products, you can increase the price of the products, you can get the user IDs, passwords, or anything. So let's just, I'll show you one more example here. See, whenever you go for the source code here, just a moment, guys. See, script has been injected in the front end. So whenever you go for this code, we are trying to inject the script. So whenever you go for the user ID text box, password text box, it should take the password value or user value, either alphabets or something like that. But whenever you're trying to inject the script and it basically takes the script, that is basically going to be the malicious code for that. Here, for example, we basically typed you are hacked. So it basically displayed us that in the text box that you are basically hacked. In the same way, if you go for another type of scripts, we also have a number of scripts in cross-site scripting. So by end of the session, I'll basically give you cheat sheets for this, how I gave you for the nmap. Exactly, I'll provide you cheat sheet for the SQL injection and also for the cross-site scripting. Just try to understand how this is exactly working, guys. So it is not important that see, let me tell you one thing. These are basically some kind of basic vulnerabilities which have been resolved, okay, which are actually being resolved. But the important is you need to learn the pattern of the attack. Whenever you go for pattern, where it is exactly whatever the target, where is the target, how we are basically finding, where are we giving the script, where it is getting injected, and how it is basically behaving. That is the main important part. Just try to understand the whole process itself. So here I gave another input that is cross-site scripting script document.cookie. See, whenever you go for this script, guys, it basically takes the session ID. Now, what is exactly this session ID? Session ID is nothing, but whenever you go for Amazon, whenever you go for Flipkart, you basically give your user ID and password, right? So each user ID and password, whenever you are typing, whenever you are trying to log in. So login is one session, log out is one session. So exactly whenever you're trying to steal the session ID, you can basically steal the user IDs and passwords of the users who are trying to uh, let's say log in and log out of the website. So exactly here in the URL also you can find again, it is basically injected. Now let me just show you another one. Now here we have one another script, guys. So which is basically it will basically help you. This script will basically try to transfer the cookie to the hacker. So here what exactly we are doing is, see, whenever you are trying to transfer the data, what exactly you need? You need the what we tell that you basically need the IP address of the attacker, right? So here what exactly I'm trying to do is, whatever the cookies are being saved in the website, I am trying to transfer those cookies to my own IP address. So 127.0.1 is basically my own IP address. I'm trying to give the script in this text box. Once I give this script, so here what exactly will happen, whatever the cookies are being saved on the website, those cookies will be transferred to my own IP address over the internet. I will receive all the cookies from the website. So let me just show you how I will receive the. Just a moment, guys. So whenever we basically give the IP address exactly here, so whatever the, so what is exactly a cookie? So cookie is nothing but whenever you go for either user IDs and passwords or whatever your sessions you're trying to log in. So each and every website has basically cookies, right? So it will basically ask you whether it can save the cookies. So here, whenever you go for the cookies, let me just show you. So let me just show you the cookies, how exactly. So here, just a moment. Now I'm going to one website, login Microsoft Azure portal, Azure portal. So here, if I click here, here see each and every website, each and every domain, either it is azure.microsoft.com, either it is amazon.com, flipkart.com, they basically save cookies and site data. If I basically open this cookies, see manage on-device site data, 27 sites available. Let me just show you what is the data saved. See here, www.microsoftazure.com. What is exactly this? So here, whenever you go for this manage site website data, here you will find somewhere user IDs and passwords. Google password payment. No, no, no. Just a moment, guys. See here, actually it is given here only. Whenever you go for cookies, so cookies and other site data are used to remember you, for example, to sign you in or to personalize ads. So whenever it tells something like sign you in, guys, it is going to save my user IDs and passwords. Whenever I basically give this website permission to save my user IDs and passwords here, if I type Microsoft, see, log into Microsoft Azure, the user ID has been saved. See, use the password. If I give the fingerprint, see here I got the user ID, here I got the password of, here again I got the user ID, again I got the password. So these are basically nothing but Microsoft related websites. One is for the Outlook, one is for the Azure login. In the same way, whenever you try to whenever you try to log in into any website, if it basically asks you to save the cookies or something, so under these cookies, what is exactly this cookie is nothing but they are basically used to save your user IDs, passwords and all, user IDs, passwords and all. Whenever you basically try to save your user IDs and passwords, so these cookies can be stolen by the attackers. So whenever they steal these cookies, they automatically get the user IDs and passwords. But here, whenever you basically steal these cookies, guys, so they are not going to be in exactly the same data. Whenever you go for HTTPS, it can be either encrypted or something, or whenever you go for HTTP, there you can exactly get the user IDs and passwords. So cookies are basically used to personalize your experience. And if you don't want to log in each and every time, whenever you try to save your data, save your user ID and password credentials on the website, that time exactly what will happen is these cookies will try to save the session for you. So that session is basically prolonged in a way that whenever you're trying to visit the website, you can automatically log in by using the saved user ID and password. So in the past session, whenever you try to save your user ID and password, the same user IDs and passwords will be used until you try to delete these cookies, or you ask them to stop taking your data or something like that. Then till that time, you will basically be able to it will basically capture your user IDs and passwords or other data. So that is how basically cookies use. So till here, any doubts, guys? Is everything clear for you? Any doubts? Anyone? Guys, any doubts? So here, by the end of the session, I'll make sure that you receive the notes on SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and also web application based attacks. So these notes related to website security, web application security, web app security. PPT notes not downloading. From where are you trying to download? From TapTap? From where are you trying to download the PPTs? Yes, sir. Okay. So I'll just let them know that PPTs and notes are not getting downloaded. I'll just inform them. Your issue will be resolved in some time, I guess. So, okay, guys, I'll just make sure you will receive the notes. So this is all about our web application security. Now, we will just start our revision part from the module 1, from starting whatever we have discussed till now. Let me just revise. So here we got our part 1 of the internship. So guys, I'll be asking you questions, whatever I guess we have completed till here, everything is completed, right? And it is clear also, I have resolved all your doubts. So now, if whenever I basically come to each and every slide, I'll be asking questions, and I want each and everyone to interact and answer my questions as quick as possible. Okay. So here, let me just start. In between, I'll be asking the questions. You try to give me answers. So guys, whenever it comes to information security, so information is security is basically divided into two different parts. Okay. So one is whatever you're using on the internet. So here you got something called as people using the internet. They, whenever you go for social media, whenever you go for different e-commerce websites, whenever you go for applications which are associated with government, where you want to give the government IDs, where you want to give the bank account details, debit cards, credit cards, that is one type of information. Second type of information, this is the normal people's information. And whenever you go for second type of information, that is your employees information. So two types of information is there. One is customers information, one is organizations information. To basically secure this information, you got something called as one term, that is information security. Either the information is related to customer, either the information is related to an employee. So in the whole whenever you compare these both, we basically try to name it as a information security. Now if you basically want to secure the users customers data, whatever the data is related to debit card using on e-commerce platforms like Amazon, Flipkart, either giving the government IDs on government websites, either using some kind of passwords, phone numbers, or whatever it is for the login ID, for logging in, logging out, and performing number of things over the internet. You basically need to secure the data, right, on your website, either it is Google, YouTube, or social media, Instagram, Facebook, any of the platforms. You basically need to secure the data. So how are you exactly going to secure the customers data, guys? How we are planning to secure the customers data? To secure the customers data, what steps are you going to take? See, let's take an example of Facebook. Okay. If you go for example of Facebook, or let's take an example of Amazon. In Amazon, you got customers who try to pay using debit card, credit card. How you are exactly going to protect these debit cards, credit card credentials? Who will exactly protect these credentials, guys? Who is responsible for the security? By implementing security measures like encryption and encryption of the credentials. Okay, encryption of the credentials is fine. Security experts, exactly. So who will exactly do this encryption, decryption? Who will exactly take care of database security and all? So whenever you want to save your customers' data, you want few security experts who can handle each and every domain. So whenever you go for a database, you need a database security guy. Whenever it comes to networking, network security team should be there, cloud security team should be there. Whenever it comes to hardware, it is basically the infrastructure security, cryptography team. For the encryption and decryption, you basically need a different people with a different expertise, right? So here customers data is being saved by employees of the company. Now how are you going to save this employees data? So these data is there. These data is basically saved by these people. So employees data is basically saved by using the CIA triad. So here, I guess we got CIA triad. So what is exactly CIA triad stands for, guys? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So whenever you go for confidentiality, integrity, and availability, confidentiality is nothing but not sharing the employees' data. If you basically want to secure your employees' data, CA triad is important. CA triad is complementally implemented in the organizations itself. The reason why it is implemented in the organizations is to secure the employees' data. So confidentiality, not sharing the employees data. Integrity is data should not be tampered. Either it is customers usernames, sorry, employees usernames, employees passwords, or employees whatever related data is there. If it gets tampered, then automatically what will happen? So it is basically exactly, this is the example. If the customer's data is sorry, employees data is being tampered, whenever you go for employee of a eBay is basically a e-commerce website, e-commerce platform where people buy and sell products. Now in eBay, exactly what happened is there was basically a phishing attack. Phishing attack is nothing but people will try to send you a link. You try to log in into that link. But there what will happen is, if Microsoft is basically a genuine user, azure.microsoft.com is the original domain. So here the spelling will be azzzuree.microsoft.com. But still you will not basically try to look at the URL, and you will go and you will basically try to give the login credentials. Once you give the login credentials here, exactly what will happen, whatever your data is, that data will be received by the attacker, and he will try to log in with your user ID and password on the original link. Once the user ID and password has been used, there he can access 145 million customers of data who are basically interacting on eBay e-commerce website. And this customers data related to uh, payment information, date of births, phone numbers, postal addresses, the exact address of your house, email addresses, encrypted passwords, customer names. So each and every data can be basically breached from the website. So that is what happens whenever you don't follow the integrity part. Now, what is exactly availability, guys? Whenever you go for availability, if our organization is not in a mode of functioning, let's say my whatever the organization is, it doesn't function on Saturday and Sunday. But if there is a requirement for the customer and you want to serve the customer properly and you don't want that customer to leave you, so you need to make an alternative on Saturday and Sunday, again, so that he should be able to claim service whatever he wants to. For that, best example is going to be ATMs. Whenever you go for banks, banks remain closed on holidays, right? But ATMs will be open whenever you want to withdraw the cash, or whenever you want to basically do whatever related to the money. If you want to transact the money, if you want to basically add money to your bank account itself, you can basically either withdraw the cash, you can also basically give the cash in the ATM, so it can basically transfer that money to your account. So this is basically CIA triad. Now, so whenever you go for organizations, so threats in the organizations, what are exactly the threats in the organizations? So threats are also divided into different parts. One is mobile application threats, you can tell. One is cloud security threats, you can tell. So whenever you go for the threats, what are the biggest threats? So right now, the one of the major industry in the IT domain, which is basically growing day by day, is cloud computing. So cloud computing threats should be concentrated more. You got software access, you got hijacking, data leakage or data loss, denial of service, you got insecure APIs. So these are all different types of threats, and denial of service also we discussed here. Denial of service also is going to be one kind of threat. Now guys, we basically discussed something about APIs here. So what are exactly APIs? I hope everyone remember. We took an example of APIs by using this travel websites, that is Make My Trip, uh, Ixigo, Agoda, Trivago. Now what I exactly told here, I hope you guys remember. Whenever you go for Make My Trip deals with all the flights, right? In Make My Trip, if you go and search for Hyderabad to Trivandrum, Hyderabad to Chennai, so there you can find flights from Air India, you can find flights from Indigo, you can find flights from Vistara, a number of companies. If you want to fly to Germany also, I can basically go for Emirates, AirAsia, Deccan, British, Air India, Indigo, any of the website, sorry, any of the flight. So based upon one platform, Make My Trip, how basically we are getting all the flights data in one website here is because we are using APIs of each and every website that is related to the company. So Emirates has its own website, AirAsia has its own website, Air India has its own website, British Airlines has its own websites, and Deccan also having the own websites. So whenever these basically each and every brand, each and every company is owning the same websites, then what we are doing is we are basically calling their API in our own website. So what is API? API is nothing but application programming interface. So whatever the interface here is being changed. Let's say Emirates is changing the flights price from 10,000 to 8,000. So the same thing should be updated in the Make My Trip also. It should be updated in the Ixigo. It should be updated in the Agoda, Trivago, each and every traveling website. The reason how it is exactly going to be possible is because we are basically taking the API. Now, what exactly happens in this API? Emirates will try to update whatever the website is updated in the Emirates, that will automatically be reflected in the API. And through that API, we are basically calling that API in our different websites. So these API is basically having something called as API keys. So API keys are nothing but they are basically an encrypted API keys generated whenever you try to get the API from the company. So let's say this API is paid. Okay, Emirates API is paid. It is charging some $30 to $40 per month. Now, whenever you tell this Emirates API is paid and you're calling it in your Make My Trip website where you want to sell the tickets and you want to take the commission from Emirates. So that time what will happen is it will basically give you a subscription plan. It will give you a encrypted key. So you are going to take that encrypted key and you're going to keep in your source code of the website. So that website, whenever it is getting executed over the internet, there automatically all the information related to Emirates website is taken from this API and reflected to your own website. In the same way, whenever you go for this Ixigo, Agoda, and Trivago also, they basically try to call all the APIs in their code, multiple APIs, so they can target the information of multiple flights, that is multiple details of the flights in their personal websites. So this is basically how APIs work. Now, whenever I tell something about insecure APIs, so online you can get n number of free APIs. So here exactly what can happen is sometimes whenever this API is not secured and Emirates website got hacked or some data breaches happened, so that whatever malware is there, virus is there, that can also be passed through the API to it can be infected from this API to another websites which are being associated with the same website. So to not so basically, if you don't want the malware to get infected to your website, to other websites, you are going to basically secure these APIs. So if there is insecure API or something like that, then definitely it will basically infect all the other resources also. So that is one of the biggest type of threat. Now, whenever you go for organizations, you got something called as insider threat, botnets, networking threats, application threats, OS threats, and physical threat. I hope everyone know what is insider threat. So insider threat is nothing but, guys, it is basically related to the organization's employees. Whenever an employee is trying to sell the information of your company to another competitor for money, he is leaking the information, right? That is basically called as insider threat. So botnets are nothing but, guys, botnets are basically like you compromise one computer, and here you can see this is basically my computer. This is my computer. You compromise this computer in between and you try to attack from this computer to the target, so that whenever they are trying to track you in between, so this basically works as a botnet. Whatever you give the instructions, it will automatically follow. But whenever they're trying to catch you, whenever they're trying to trace your IP address, first this botnet will be traced. Once they reach till the IP address, from here your IP address will be secured. You can basically remove your connection, clear all the tracks and escape. Network threats are there. Under networking threats, you can go for unauthorized access of databases, unauthorized access of Wi-Fi or whatever. In the network, basically what will exactly happen? People will try to connect to your office network and they try to manipulate the data. They try to download the private files which are present and which are not accessed publicly. They will try to manipulate that information. So application threat is there. Whenever you go for application threats, again authentication is there, user IDs, passwords. You don't use strong user IDs and passwords, then definitely you are going to lose lot of information which is your private data. OS threats. Operating system threats is nothing but, guys, operating system threats. Whenever you go for, let's take an example of iOS, okay, or let's take an example of Windows. So right from Windows XE to Windows 11, there are in between different versions launched by Windows. So in Windows XE, there were 10 to number of vulnerabilities. Okay, same vulnerabilities will not be repeated in the Windows 11. whatever mistakes were done, whatever flaws were built in Windows XE, whatever vulnerabilities were there, they are basically not taken forward to Windows 10, Windows 11. So whenever a new operating system version is built, old vulnerabilities, old mistakes will be patched and resolved. Then only new version will be released in the market. The reason is why, because whenever you're getting a phone, either in your mobile phone, when you're getting a software update, whenever you're getting some iOS update or Android update, that time the reason is once you update it, either something will be improved in your phone, either it is camera, either it is usability, either it is some kind of you can tell processor will get increased, so something will be enhanced, right? The reason of giving update is removing past flaws. So that is the reason why whenever you try to use any of the device, it should be completely updated. If you use outdated, you can tell outdated versions, then definitely you will have the threats. Now, physical threat is there. Physical threat is nothing but, guys, going for access. Without access, you're trying to enter some property or something like that. That is basically physical threat. Okay, now here we got something called as 5 phases of hacking. So whenever you go for 5 phases of hacking, guys, first phase is information gathering. Second one is scanning. Third one is gaining access. Fourth one is maintaining access. And fifth one is clearing tracks. Attendance linking is not working. Guys, is it not working for everyone or is it only not working for Charan? Have anyone filled the attendance form? Working, sir. Okay. So it is working, Charan. It is some error from your end. Please try to resolve it. So guys, whenever you go for 5 phases of hacking, uh, information gathering is there, scanning is there, gaining access is there, maintaining access and clearing tracks. Information gathering, we already saw that there is some tools called as sublister, nmap. We basically use them to get information about open ports, subdomains whenever you go for organization side. And also whenever you go for scanning, we basically find a number of IP addresses. We target the IP address. Whenever we target the IP address, so we will basically try to scan that IP address. Once we basically scan the IP address, guys, we are going to get a number of open ports. By using that open port only, we will try to create the backend session. That is basically you try to create a session between this IP address to server's IP address. Exactly. Whenever you go for gaining access, you try to use tools like Metasploit, like whatever we used today, whatever practical we have done today. In the same way, you are going to use the Metasploit tool and you are going to get the access to this server. By using the backdoor, you are going to build the connection. Maintaining access is nothing but you need to maintain the access whenever you're trying to download the files from this server, whenever you're trying to do something, you need to maintain the access. Clearing tracks is nothing but, guys, whatever the session was created, you need to basically clear out that session and you need to delete whatever the files are there. So that is basically creating a session. Now here we got something called as HTTP port number 80. I hope everyone know this. What is HTTP 80 and HTTP 443? So 80 is basically insecure because it doesn't use right algorithms for the encryption and decryption. And where you go for 443 basically use right SHA algorithm, RSA algorithm, some enhanced algorithms for the whole encryption and decryption part. So that is where whenever you basically share files using HTTP, it is basically not encrypted. But whenever we tell 443 is completely encrypted, so here one tunnel will be formed, and under this tunnel, you are basically whatever packets data is there. So whatever data you send over the internet, that will be distributed in the packets. So let's say if some data is lost over the internet, then it is only in the encrypted format. So no one will be able to read it because it is encrypted. So till it reaches the destination, it will be encrypted only. Until it reaches the destination, then it will be decrypted and it will be viewed to the destinations part. So that's it for today, guys. So tomorrow we will discuss about TCP UDP. Yeah, we will start our what are ports and everything. We will revise in tomorrow's session, whatever the remaining things are there. We will try in tomorrow's session. So regarding sir, how to download open DVWA, guys, regarding DVWA and Metasploitable, I'll basically share some data how you can download it and how it is going to work. So you can go and download using the links which are present. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you everyone. That's it for today, guys. Thank you everyone.